My name is Diamante, and I'm doing my capstone project on music and spirituality in ancient Greece. To start, I want to give a very brief overview of what the ancient Greeks believed. The religion was polytheistic with hundreds of gods, and each of those gods had domains over certain things. So, whereas Zeus is the god of the sky and heavens, Poseidon was the god of the seas. Many of the Greek cities had patron gods that protected them, and often this is where they get their names. Like Athens' patron goddess was Athena. To worship the gods, the Greeks would build temples, pray, and do animal and human sacrifices. Most important to us, they also held festivals and would dance and sing. While the Greeks had many instruments, there are four main important instruments. First is the aeolos, most similar to a clarinet or a flute. It's an aerophone that is double-reeded, and its most iconic feature is the fact that it has two barrels. Next is the kithara, which is a chordophone that is the ancient equivalent to a guitar. It's often only used by high-level musicians due to its complexity, and its origins can be found in many ancient societies like the Indus Valley and ancient Sumeria. The third one is the lyre, which is arguably one of the most iconic Greek instruments. Like the kithara, it is a chordophone, and it's usually simpler to play, often played by youth. Last is the Greek chorus. Like the modern choir in churches and musicals, they sing in unison and often at the same pitch. In Greek plays, there are less so characters and more representations of things. They can be narrators, or they often can explore inner thoughts of the main character. Like everything in Greek cultures, these instruments find their origin in Greek mythology. The aeolos was invented and then later cursed by Athena after being mocked by the other goddesses for how she puffed out her cheeks when playing. The lyre was invented by the newborn god Hermes, made from a turtle shell and cow intestines. He then traded Apollo for it and thus made it one of Apollo's most famous symbols. In the reconstruction of ancient Greek music, there are many difficulties. The Greeks did have a form of musical notation known as systema teleion, or the perfect system. This system had different notes for vocals and instruments, and it was pretty extensive. However, besides the pitch, there's really not much else. We have no idea the dynamics, tone color, and sometimes, due to the aging of some of these pieces, we don't even know the meter. Much of the music we're going to listen to today is more of a hypothesis of how they sounded. To start, we're going to listen to the clip from a Greek tragedy, Orestes by Euripides. The tragedy follows the aftermath of when Orestes killed his mother. In this clip, the meter is in the Greek poetic meter called dokmaic, which is commonly used in tragedies like this. This form can be explained as simply long, short, short, long, short, and there's often a variation on that last beat. The reason so many tragedies use this style is that it can give the piece a sense of dragging and sorrow. In the lyrics of this piece, we can see why it would call for a sense of sorrow. The excerpt reads, I cry, your mother's blood that drives you mad. Great happiness in mortals never lasting, but like a sail of a swift ship, which a god shook up and plunged with terrible troubles into the greedy and deadly waves of the sea. This bit would have been sung by a chorus, and they represent the guilt of Orestes. While the blame is placed on Orestes in this bit, the blame of his madness is also placed on the gods. This is an example the Greek believed that there is little to no free will, and that the gods have their hands in just about everything. The next piece we're going to listen to is one of the most intact Greek pieces ever discovered. This is part of the Delphic hymns written by Atheneo to celebrate the god Apollo. It would likely be that this was sung by multiple people. The meter is in the Greek poetic style called kretic, also known as quintuple. Kretic is most commonly used in religious pieces like this one, and is best described as long, short, long. This piece, with its repetitive style, is like other meditative music, likely because it is trying to achieve a mystical experience. The lyrics of the first Delphic hymn read as follows. Hark, you whose domain is deep-forested Heliacon, loud thundering Zeus's fair-armed daughters, come with songs to celebrate your brother Phoebus of the golden hair, who over the twin peaks of this mountain Parnassus, accompanied by the far-famed Delphic maidens, come to the streams of the flowing Castalian spring as he visits his mountain oracle. This excerpt is calling upon the 9 muses to leave their home and celebrate and worship the god Apollo, who is coming down from his mountain with his priestesses to visit the Delphi oracle. To give a brief overview, Heliacon is a site of 2 springs sacred to the muses. The fair-armed daughter is in reference to the muses. Phoebus is another name for Apollo. Parnassus is a mountain sacred to both the muses and Apollo, and the oracle was a priestess who could channel the Lord Apollo and speak his prophecies. This line is tempting to invoke the name of the goddesses to achieve a mystical experience, attempting to celebrate their patron god. Names are believed to be powerful in ancient Greek society, so even just saying the name of a god could draw their attention to you. In using Apollo's name, they're purposely drawing attention to themselves. So after analyzing those 2 pieces, what does it tell us about what the Greeks believed? Both pieces in some way address the Greek idea that the gods were involved in every little aspect of daily life, and by extension, the Greeks believed that there is no free will. Another facet learned is that in each event, and for each god, it requires different kinds of music. Similar to how the music played at a funeral is different for that played at a birthday party, the Greeks were more specific by having different kinds of music for each god. We listen to a hymn for the god Apollo, often known as the Renaissance god, because he had domain over many things considered ideal in Greek society, like poetry, archery, music, and beauty. Therefore, his music represents his idealness, often being meditative and relaxing, meant to center oneself. However, it would be likely that any music performed for, say, the god Dionysus, with domain over wine, party, sex, and insanity, the music would be much different, often invoking ecstatic dancing and rituals. In fact, one cult of Dionysus, the Maenads, or mad women, during a ritual would tear wild animals and men limb from limb. Tangent aside, the Greeks found the style of music very important in worship. It is important because of the last point, in that hymns, though partially meant to bring a god to you, were sung to celebrate the gods and ease their temper. Those gods were beloved. They could often be vengeful, so the Greeks were very particular in their worship because they did not want to anger anyone. Overall, the Greeks believed the gods to be involved in everything, and because of that, music had to be very particular, lest they make a mistake and bring punishment upon them. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. Here are all my sources cited, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.